Hello everyone. Welcome to my YNR 24 spoilers. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Victor Newman and Jack Abbott argue about AI. Thank you for joining the young and the restless Daily YPP for a brief. You're already halfway through. Recap of the most incredible or what the hell did we just watch moments from today's premiere. Now, let's get started. The Young and the Restless events. On The Young and the Restless, Peter Bergman portrays Jack Abbott and Eric Braeden plays Victor Newman. The rivalry between Jack and Victor and Jill and the late Catherine are the two most enduring rivalries on The Young and the Restless. The two men have argued about business. Nikki, Diane, and Ashley, Jack's sister. Nikki is at the heart of their present dispute. Jack sacrificed his own sobriety to assist Nikki get a handle on hers during a platonic night in a hotel room last year. Victor doesn't care that his wife and her ex didn't have any sexual relations during the intervention, even though he is likely aware of this. Victor believes that Jack had no right to have a close emotional relationship with Nikki. Jack is going to pay the mustached mogul. When in Victor's control, Kane's AI software has the power to destroy Jabot Cosmetics. Ready for combat, we watch Jack seize Victor by the horns and help himself inside his house. Jack was coming to provide a grave warning, not to ask for a trick or a treat. Victor joked, even if Jack was a day early for Halloween. Victor pretended to be innocent, but Jack warned him that if he intended to exploit Kane's AI program, he would be in for the fight of his life. You want to come after me? You bring your best stuff, Jack said, as a reminder to never miss an entire episode of the highly regarded soap opera. The Young and the Restless featured this argument in the episode's last two acts. Victor retorted, "This is a hill I am willing to die on." I'm looking forward to that. You can never predict when the finest part will arrive. Do you want further information? We've got you. The greatest comprehensive YNR recaps may be found online at Soap Central. You may even read every single one of them going back more than 30 years. We also provide daily spoilers if you are unable to wait for the next episode. The Two Scoops is as close as we can get to being a watching party without really being a show. So whatever you do this weekend, please remember to read it for some chuckles. Hey, admit it, we're funny. The best thing is that we want to know if you agree or disagree. Leave a remark below as usual. Victor threatens to harm Jabot, and Jack confronts him about it. In The Young and the Restless Thursday, October 30th episode, Victor asked Michael to get information about Sienna. Ko went back to Genoa City. Billy asked Phyllis for assistance, and Jack confronted Victor about his impending attack. The Young and the Restless events. Victor, played by Eric Braeden on The Young and the Restless. Following an exciting vacation to Los Angeles, Kyle returned to the Abbott mansion. He couldn't wait to partake in his surprise tandem costume and take Harrison trick-or-treating. But Jack told Kyle that he was needed somewhere else and would have to let the nanny handle the Halloween celebrations. Kyle could feel the fear in Jack and Diane's eyes as they apologized for disturbing his time with Claire in Los Angeles. Kyle thought that Kane and his AI program were the cause of their animosity, but Jack claimed that Victor posed a far greater threat. Kyle questioned who may have assisted Victor in gaining access to the AI software and couldn't fathom how he managed to do so. Diane proposed the idea that Kane's AI program was just talk with no action, and the Abbotts strengthened their cybersecurity. They discussed strategies for dealing with any leaks on the actual threat they might have faced. Diane's belief that the entire program was a ruse was picked up by Jack. He went out to confront Victor in advance, wondering why someone so self-assured hadn't attacked. Diane apologized for having to shorten Kyle's trip, and he casually mentioned Noah's mishap. Diane couldn't even fathom how upset they must be after he described the severity of Noah's injuries. She was surprised that Allie hadn't contacted her grandfather to inform him about the mishap. Diane thought they would reunite, and Kyle only wanted to show Claire that he was a decent man. He was fed up with people getting in his way and needed some time to put the parts back together. When Kyle talked about someone interfering with his reconciliation with Claire, Diane questioned whom he was referring about. Kyle understood he had to give Claire space, even if he really wanted to go back in time. Holden, though, was still involved. Claire was enamored with his charisma, but he knew something was wrong. Diane questioned whether they were indeed romantically linked. Kyle wanted to put a stop to it before it happened, even though he didn't think so. He had to show her what Holden was really like as a man. They didn't blame Kyle, despite his apology for being out of town when Jabot most needed him. Kyle didn't think they'd be able to repel an attack, but Jack thought Kane was actually confused by the program being stolen. He inquired as to how they could halt it and eliminate it before it brought Jabot to its knees. Even if things improved, his relationship with Claire was still unsettled when they inquired about any unresolved business he had in Los Angeles. Because of Claire's reaction, Diane advised Kyle to abandon his quest to find evidence against Holden. Holden had to let her see for herself whether he was as awful as Kyle thought he was. Kyle dismissed her warning and vowed to do everything in his power to tell her about his vile background. Phyllis was in the GCAC when Victor saw her, but Nikki called from Noah's hospital. In addition to wanting to know how his grandchild was doing, he also wanted to know how Nick was questioning Sienna. He set his sights on his new business partner and assured Nikki that Halloween will be better the next year. She was prepared for him to fulfill his end of the bargain when he inquired as to whether the transfer of the AI program had been completed. Victor was the one man who could help her achieve her goal of controlling Jabot. Sadly, Victor had little good news to share when Phyllis asked for an update on Noah. After asking her to keep Noah's accident a secret, he changed the subject to inquire about her sleeping patterns. "What are you two doing? Just catching up or discussing serious business matters?" Victor asked Billy as he wandered over to their table, but he was prepared to take on the mustache before they could continue. To conquer his adversary, Victor picked up Billy's children, and Michael soon followed. Victor wanted Billy to leave quickly, but Billy stayed with Phyllis and put his feet firmly in the ground. Billy joined Phyllis, prepared to fight a possible new enemy, as Victor and Michael went to their own table. At first, Phyllis was evasive when Billy asked her about the background of her conversation with Victor. In an attempt to confuse him, she played off his worries and told Billy about Noah's tragedy. Billy vowed to get in touch with Nick and Sharon because he believed the accident sounded horrible. Billy wasn't sold, but he was devastated to learn that Noah had been put in a medically induced coma. He didn't understand why she urged him to keep the details of Noah's injury to himself. Billy settled in and decided to remain for breakfast, even though Phyllis assumed the topic was over. She asked not to have a breakfast companion and asked Billy to get up from the table. Billy was labeled a narcissist, unfaithful, and unreliable by Phyllis, who didn't want to spend any time with him. She inquired about Billy's most recent endeavor after he begged her to set aside the past. She imagined Sally was in charge this time when he talked about Abbott Communications' relaunch. She reasoned that the company had a chance to prosper with Billy as second in command. Phyllis professed many opportunities for herself, but Billy discounted her potential. He asked her to swear she wasn't working with Victor and to look him in the eye. Because of her tense history with Victor, she chuckled at his accusation. He acknowledged that Kane had spoken it to her personally when he questioned where she had heard it. Phyllis insisted that she and Kane had never been closer and that their relationship was unbreakable. Billy wanted to retain Kane at the center, so he talked to her about the software theft and asked if she knew who might have done it. Billy recognized Phyllis's motivations since he was similar to her. He understood she felt cornered since she had recently experienced a lot of personal and professional failures. Billy was aware that only Phyllis had the means to obtain the AI program, but she refuted his claims. She pretended to be insulted since she didn't want to keep defending herself to Billy. Despite all the evidence that she was a snake in the grass, Billy decided to believe her. He changed course and sought Phyllis's assistance. After abruptly firing her from Abbott Communications, she felt insulted that he would want her assistance on anything. Phyllis consented to hear his pitch because he believed it would benefit her to hear it. Billy wanted Phyllis to defend Jabot from Victor's assault by using her unparalleled hacking abilities. He requested that she specify her pricing. Michael couldn't understand why Victor, Phyllis, and Billy were talking together, but Victor called Billy an unexpected visitor. Michael asked Victor about the content of his talk with Phyllis, but Victor refused to provide any details. The conversation shifted to Noah's mishap and the possibility of foul play. Michael questioned whether anyone had become a prime suspect, since he couldn't see why anyone would want to hurt Noah. Michael reacted strangely when Victor asked him to investigate the accident's specifics. He was surprised to learn that Victor was interested in using Michael to carry out his dirty work, even though he had assumed that Victor wanted to talk to him on a casual buddy level. The idea that Victor employed Michael as a lackey was laughed upon. Because of the money he had given Michael throughout the years, he didn't value his way of thinking. Victor admitted to having a sexual relationship with Michael and relying on him to assist with Noah's accident and obtain the police report. Victor wasn't certain, so Michael asked for the name of the investigating detective. Additionally, he desired Michael to investigate Sienna and obtain a more comprehensive understanding of her relationship with Noah. Though he wasn't prepared to commit, Michael agreed to take Victor's most recent offer into consideration. He listed his recent marital problems with Lauren as one of the numerous reasons why it was dangerous to work for Victor. Instead of doing it himself, Victor requested Michael to do it for Noah. Victor was perplexed by Michael's hesitation since he couldn't see why he had prioritized their history over aiding Noah. In the end, he consented to assist Noah in his current situation, but he had no intention of returning to his previous role. Condescendingly, Victor concurred that was the only thing to it. Michael inquired as to whether the rumor that Victor was in possession of Kane's AI program was accurate. Victor affirmed it, and Michael waved away any more questions because he needed plausible deniability. Victor enthusiastically validated Michael's assumption that Jack would be his first target. He insisted on knowing Victor's motivation, but it all came down to Jack and Nikki's wild night in the hotel room. That night, the fight flared up more fiercely than ever before, and Victor promised to pay for his actions. Michael cautioned Victor that it might blow up in his face, but Victor was prepared to take the chance despite the danger. Victor demanded proof that he was on his side and said that no one would stop him from defeating Jack Abbott. Victor saw things clearly while Michael struggled with morality. There was no middle ground. Michael was either on his side or he wasn't. If Victor was concerned that this would affect their marriage, he asked Michael to keep this from Lauren. Michael would tell Lauren up front even though he wasn't sure if he would accept a job with Victor. He said he would give the job offer some thought, but he would be more receptive to it with Noah. Victor welcomed Jack into his house at the ranch and inquired as to why he had come. "You're not going to get away with this, Victor." Jack claimed to have knowledge of Victor's possession of Kane's AI software and forewarned him that he was about to face the fight of his life. Jack stated, "I am sick and tired of your constant efforts to undermine me and my family. It's going to stop now. You want to come after me, you bring your best stuff. This is a hill I am willing to die on." Victor was up for the task. Like the smoke curling from Victor Newman's ubiquitous cigar, tension hung heavy in the center of Genoa City. For many years, Jack Abbott and Victor's competition had shaped the city's business and social scene. It was a battle waged not just in boardrooms, but also in living rooms over unresolved romances, inherited family ties, and power that could never be fully divided. However, artificial intelligence added a contemporary element to this most recent conflict. Kane's experimental AI program, which was intended to forecast consumer behavior and optimize production pipelines, has been taken over by Victor, who has always been a strategic predator. It could have been a game changer for Jabot Cosmetics. It turned into a weapon in Victor's. Years of Newman-Abbott arguments had left Jack's bones wounded and hardened, but he knew it, felt it in them. Jack was taken aback by the news that Victor had purchased the software. In order to avenge a personal grievance, he had attempted to persuade himself that Victor was bluffing and that even the mustache wouldn't risk transgressing so many moral boundaries. However, Victor crossed all boundaries if it meant defeating his adversary. Not only was Jack entering enemy territory when he strolled into the Newman Ranch, but he was also entering the past, into every scar, betrayal, and broken truce that had shaped his career. Victor gave him his signature grin, a disconcerting mix of assurance and disdain. "You're a day early for Halloween, Jack," he replied. Jack didn't bite. "I didn't think you'd come in costume." His words had a steely edge and his face was stone. He yelled, "I'm not here for tricks or treats. I'm come to give you a warning." The two titans of Genoa City stood inches apart, their eyes locked, the weight of 40 years of hostility resonating in the air between them. If you believe you can use Kane's AI program against Jabot, you're in for the fight of your life. Victor pretended to be innocent and to have no idea what Jack was discussing. Jack, however, saw through the deception. His voice rising, he continued, "Don't play coy with me. You've been trying to find any excuse to attack me. This is it then. You bring your best stuff because you want to chase me." Victor's eyes narrowed, and the corners of his mouth curled upward in delight. "Because this is a hill I'm willing to die on." His tone was unmistakably menacing when he responded casually, "I'm looking forward to that." Victor saw this as personal retribution that fueled both his empire and his ego, not simply business. His secret weapon was the AI program, which allowed him to completely destroy Jabot by tainting supply chains, disclosing trade secrets, and controlling markets without ever having to touch the business side. There was a web of lies woven by well-known players behind this altercation. Always one to avoid trouble, Phyllis Summers had been spotted having a serious discussion with Victor at the GCC. Suspicious as ever, Billy Abbott had challenged her, wondering if she was playing both sides once more. Although Phyllis disputed all of this, her smirk revealed more than her words did. Michael Baldwin, meantime, was grudgingly dragged back into Victor's sphere of influence and assigned to look into Noah's accident and Sienna's potential participation. Even though Michael was well aware that Victor's proposals were always accompanied by unspoken conditions, he was unable to refuse, especially when family was involved. But below the police reports and family misery, there was a darker side to the situation. Victor was forming friendships and obtaining pieces for the game he wanted to win. His mind was already planning how to exploit Kane's AI to destroy Jack's business as he was talking about Noah's recuperation. The anxiety was no less at the Abbott mansion. Eager to take Harrison trick-or-treating after returning from Los Angeles, Kyle instead became entangled in his father's impending conflict. The family was shocked to learn that Victor controlled the AI program, as Jack and Diane clarified. After years of recuperating from hostile takeovers, scandals, and sabotage, Jabot had never experienced an internal attack employing code, algorithms, and digital espionage. Kyle volunteered to strengthen their cybersecurity squad, but Jack was already determined to take on Victor head-on. He had grown weary of defending himself and feigning that a guy who thrived on dominance could be at peace. Fearing another full-scale corporate conflict, Diane begged him not to go, but Jack dismissed her worries. "This has nothing to do with business," he said. "It's about confronting someone who has been taking too much for too long." Jack's resolve was evident when he stormed inside the Newman Ranch. The tempest inside him was reflected in the storm outside. Jack's anger was only heightened by Victor's cool, almost amused manner. "Victor, you're playing with fire," Jack cautioned. "That program has the power to destroy people. It's not simply numbers." Victor reclined back in his chair, completely unconcerned. "You use it against me, against Jabot, and I'll make sure you regret it." He remarked icily, "You ought to have considered your regrets before spending that night with my wife." Like poison, the charge lingered in the air. Jack's jaw tightened. He had anticipated this. "You know that nothing happened," he said. Victor said in a low, menacing voice, but you've never allowed truth to interfere with your fixation with control. Jack, control is what separates survival from extinction, and I intend to live. The words cut like a blade through the quiet. Unfazed, Jack stepped forward. You believe that your threats and technology will allow you to destroy me. However, you have underestimated me in the past, and each time I have recovered stronger. It won't be any different this time. Instead of using violence, the altercation ended with a vow. With only the tiniest smile remaining on his lips, Victor stood in the shadows of his kingdom as Jack stormed off. Both men were aware that the fight was just getting started. Jack's next action would determine not only Jabot's destiny, but also his own legacy. The AI program was more than just a tool. It embodied all of the ethical dilemmas that the contemporary business world had to deal with, such as whether innovation could occur without exploitation. Would integrity hold up in a field where power struggles and manipulation are commonplace? Victor's explanation was straightforward. The rules were written by the winners. For Jack, it was a test of his ability to remain the man his father had brought him up to be in the face of a man who had long given up his morals in favor of conquest. The Abbott family gathered around Jack back at Jabot, their features displaying a mix of resolve and concern. Diane pledged to shield their family from collateral damage. Kyle pledged to assist in defending the business against digital intrusion, and Billy, always the wild card, started planning his own retaliation. The Abbotts were temporarily brought together by a shared foe, putting aside their differences. The battle between Abbott and Newman had entered a new era, one that was waged with data, code, and the merciless accuracy of artificial intelligence rather than boardroom votes or whispered rumors. Victor poured himself a drink across town, his eyes sparkling with satisfaction as he whispered to the empty room, "Let the games begin." One thing became certain as the credits rolled. Neither guy wanted to lose in the resuscitation of Genoa City's oldest rivalry in the digital age.